computer. Okay, so, well, I don't know. I think we're on like week 3 or 4 of Diary of a Scentsy Consultant. And tonight I am interviewing the wonderful Katrina Mclane, who is a star consultant with Scentsy. How long have you been a consultant, my love?
2 years in April. So nearly 2 years.
2 years in April. I was going to say, I'm not going to go into too much detail about your introduction because obviously you're going to do that yourself and you're going to tell us a little bit about yourself. But what I will say is I didn't sponsor you into the business, did I? So you joined with...
I've had a few sponsors. I've run a few times till I got to you.
I joined in April 2 years ago. Oh, it was a good time to join. But it just shows like you literally never know what's going to happen in Scentsy, because there was actually 2 people between like you and me, wasn't there? And you've obviously ended up being your sponsor, and it's been absolutely wonderful getting to know you better. But I'm going to stop talking because that is like my, I don't want to say toxic trait, that's a little bit extreme, but I want to kind of let you do the talking on this. So over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, not Scentsy related, but a little bit about you, your life, your home life, like what you do for a living, like a little bit about Katrina the person.
Okay, so Katrina the person is very busy.
Yeah.
Which is what that most people would describe me. So I'm a mum to 3 boys. I've got Jay, who's going to be 20 next month. I have got Elliot, who's 18, and Harrison, who is 11. Obviously married to my husband, Christian, and we live in Hull, which is a bit away from a lot of the people in our group, isn't it?
I know.
In Hull, you know. So you'll notice I don't pronounce my H's and I drag my O's. Which was a conversation breaker that me and Lindsay had at Weltor, actually, with the Essex girls with sat here. So then my current job is I'm a child protection coordinator and mental health lead in like a special school for students with severe learning disabilities, aged like 4 all the way through to 19. They stay with us. So that's like, I absolutely love my job. So I know some people obviously in Scentsy, like they're really striving out there to get to director or whatever because they don't love the job. And I think about this a lot now that I've like got my vision that I would like to be a director. I'm like, oh, but I love my job. I'd have to find a way to do both.
But and you absolutely, I will just intervene that, and you absolutely will. Like, I think there's a big misconception, especially across like the industry as a whole, that like not everybody does this because they want to leave their job. Like some people genuinely love their job. Louise Graham, who Emma and I are actually going to go spend some time with, not this weekend, next weekend. She is a children's cancer nurse, and she's the superstar director. She's got a huge group. She's got like, and she actually took some time out of her job for a year, and she was like, I can't do it. Like, I need to go back. Like, I love it. It's just like her part.
Yeah, I watched training of hers actually. I did really like her training. She went back, didn't she? She took a year. I remember.
Yeah. So what I mean is, it's not always about that. You can 100% run a business and have a full-time job if that's what you want.
Yeah. So I love my job. I just love it. The kids are amazing. It's like I feel like I'm doing something really, really worthwhile. But the problem with my job is some days can be really full on, really like emotionally difficult. I'm dealing with like some really difficult things at times that obviously I can't go into. But then also it's like emotionally draining, but I'm blessed to work there, if you get what I mean, because like some days are just amazing as well. It's like light and shade, but that's why I have really enjoyed Scentsy, because I would then work like into the night because like, not because I had like, I did sort of have to, but because I wanted to and I was passionate about it. But actually sometimes Scentsy like become like my switch off, because I'm not actually good at like doing nothing. That's just not very busy.
That's not who you are.
No, it's just not what I do. So Scentsy been great for that, because it's like a little switch off. If work's been really difficult that day, I can just sort of like switch off. Or like, as you say, just go slice wax if I've been dealing with something horrible, or because otherwise I did used to sometimes overplay it in my mind, because I suppose the stakes are high with my job. Like if I make a mistake, the stakes are high. So that's my current job. I've been in education though pretty much like forever, really. I've had like a million roles in education, but so I got pregnant quite young. I got pregnant at 16 when I was doing my A levels. And I absolutely could have carried on and stayed and did my A levels, but that's another thing that I'll go on to that Scentsy like changed my life, because the reason I didn't finish my A levels was because I was worried what people thought about me when I walked in the common room because I was pregnant, which is just ridiculous to not finish your A levels because I was worried what people thought of me. So the start of my career was obviously at home with the boys, and then the path's changed a bit because my eldest has got quite complex additional needs, which came to light sort of as he was developing, as you know. So when you start not hitting milestones, I was a bit like, okay. So then I just sort of thought I need to work in schools because I don't know who would look after him in the school holidays. That's basically how I got them. Like, I need to work in a school. So I started as a level 1 tier, got promoted quite quickly to a level 2, then to a level 3. Then my boss offered me like an opportunity where they would pay for some training for me to be like a HLTA, which is like you teach when the teacher's out there, basically, like a cover supervisor. Then they came to me again and said, will you be a teacher? We'll sort of put you through your training to be a teacher. And I actually started that. And then, well, actually, it's a really funny one. I started that, and my brother had an accident when he was 16, which left him with a brain injury in 2016. And he was in hospital for 9 months, and it's been really, obviously, quite a life-changing event. And I just started my degree for the teaching at that time. And I stopped, and everybody was like, well, you don't need to stop. You could pause, and you could like go back next year when things are better. And there was like, you shouldn't quit because this has happened to you. But it's like that thing of not happening to you for you. Obviously, I didn't want my brother's injury to happen. And this lesson I learned will never be better than that not happening. But actually, it made me realise I don't want to be a teacher. I've never wanted to be a teacher. And it made me realise life was too short. So I was just going down a path because it was just like,
because you felt like you should.
Yeah, it was presented to me. Somebody gave me an opportunity, and I was like, felt I should say yes. Which actually, now I think about it like that, is crazy because we worry about giving the Scentsy opportunities to people, but somebody was telling me to be a teacher, which is way hard work, and I was like, I feel like I should say yes. Not if I go to do that, which I don't want to do.
So it's safe to say that your plate is very full. And that was why when I wanted to speak to you, it was because literally on paper, not to sound like we're on Love Island, but like on paper, you could literally give every excuse under the sun as to not work your Scentsy business. Like, you have a very full-on job, you have a full-on home life, you're like you've just said, I know you don't mind talking about it, like your eldest son has additional needs, you do a lot of charity work, like you literally fill 24 hours in every day. So, but
fill the days.
Absolutely have one of the best mindsets I've ever come across in the last 6 years of doing this, and that was why I thought it was so important to talk to you about that. Okay, so when did you join Scentsy?
So I joined in April 21 because my friend, who was my original sponsor, she joined in February, and I didn't want to buy anything from Scentsy, so I just bought raspberry dragon fruit,
which you didn't really like.
No, it was the cheapest thing on her website. But I did really rate how long it lasted compared to all the other wax I bought. So then I thought, I think she gave me a Just Breathe sample and a Luna one. And I was like, actually. So I bought a few more bits. And then I wanted to buy more than I could afford to buy. So I was just like, but it was really weird actually, because when she messaged me once and said, I think you'd be really good at this. And I was like, no, I wouldn't.
Like we all say.
But she didn't actually follow up. It was really weird. It was my best friend Lorna always says this as well. It was me joining Scentsy was so out of character, like so out of character. But I just randomly, I think we'd gone looking at universities for Elliot, and I absolutely freaked out at the cost of halls of residence. So I messaged her and I was like, how much money do you actually get a month at the minute from Scentsy? And when she told me, I was like, I'll give it a go. But it was so out of character because I don't normally do anything like, well, I didn't used to, I do now. Didn't used to do like brave things out of my comfort zone. So
that's why you joined, and here you are. Yeah. Okay, so you've talked about what jobs you had done previously, and you know what you were doing for a living when you joined Scentsy, which is obviously what you are still doing for a living now. But what how many days a week do you work with your current?
5 days a week.
So 5 days a week you're working.
And then I actually technically work on a Wednesday night as well, but I don't class it as work. But I leave from work, I go to my brother's and I'm his overnight support care until the Thursday morning, and then I go to work from his house on the Thursday morning, and then I go home. So I leave the house on a Wednesday morning and go home on the Thursday night.
Okay, when you've been and done a day's work, then an evening looking after your brother, then another day at work, and then you go home.
Yeah.
Okay. So
luckily he's not woke me up so far, but he does need overnight care, but he's not woke me up yet.
Bless him. Bless him. Okay, so you don't have like a typical working Scentsy day then, because you just fit when we talk about working in your pockets of time, you literally do that. You literally work your business into your pockets of time. So the question, you know, what did your typical Scentsy working day look like? If I was to say to you, right, what was your typically, how would you fit Scentsy into like a typical day for you?
Well, I do Scentsy every day, but some days it might just be that I've messaged some people. But I literally, even when I was like crazy, Lindsay will know, I was crazy ill in December, but I think I still did Scentsy every day. It might have been that I replied to like the odd message when I could wake up. But yes, I do. And then, well, actually, when we went to World Tour, I said this to you, Laura, when I was sat there at World Tour, and they were talking about like sort of like a brain dump.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is just what I do in my life. I've been doing this since I was like 8. It's how I used to manage panic attacks. So what I do every Saturday and Sunday, I just scroll all over. It's normally about 2 A4 pages, anything that's like in my mind. And then on a Sunday night, it's really geeky, but it's just how I work it. On a Sunday night, I then write like the days of the week and I spread all the jobs out. I've always done that way before Scentsy anyway. It's just how I manage stress. And my mates, like, they really take the pee. So, I mean, I swear, I feel like I'm on BBC. I probably already have sworn.
No, you haven't sworn.
No, mates, they really do take the pee. So, like, over the years, they used to, like, come in and just write stupid things on my notes. So, like, remember to breathe, wash your mini. Do you know, like, stupid stuff like that. So that's what I do now. I just literally, so I write down anything I need to do for my kids or my life or whatever. And then I just spread all my Scentsy jobs across the days. So like some days it might be that I'm going to do my broadcast messages and a story and a summit. And then maybe that I'm going to have some follow-ups that day, joint talks that day, samples that day. I always schedule on. So when I'm supporting my brother, you don't go to bed till midnight. So I always, but if I'm just sat watching telly till midnight, I'm going to fall asleep. That's the dead set. So I schedule for a week between 11 and midnight on a Wednesday, like the full week, and then it's done. So I do just squeeze it in pockets, and I make my husband drive way more. So I do so much work.
Yeah, in the car. Oh, we've lost you. Oh no, come back. Oh, she's frozen. Right, let me see. Oh no. Right, let me see if oh, you back?
I could still see me. Is that working now?
I could still see you. You just gone frozen like hose.
That's what happens when you live in Hull. Very dodgy internet.
I love it though. Like, see, like it sounds like where I grew up. Emma's from Nottingham, so we're not all. I know we've got a big chunk of the team down in Essex, but we're spreading all over the place now. We've got the whole, you know, demographic of the UK on here tonight. Okay, so that is a perfect example of working your business in your pockets of time. And when people say like I don't have time to work Scentsy, I literally want to shake them and go, yeah, you do. you have got time when you're sitting in the car, or when you're sitting in the bath, or when you're sitting watching telly, or you're sitting, it's a choice. It's making the choice to work that into your pockets of time, and you literally do that. Okay, so since you joined Scentsy, I know you do a lot of, actually I'm going to come on to personal development in a minute. Has there been like pivotal moment, and this can be whether it's a training you're watching or an event or anything, where you've literally sat there and gone like, wow, this is where I'm supposed to be, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing?
So this is actually the only question you sent that I've properly thought about, because I've had no time today. You sent me the questions and then work was just manic. I thought, I'll look over dinner, but I did look at this one. And it's actually a series of events, I realised, which has taken me a very long time. I mean, I do need to take a little bit of a leaf out of Emma's book, who obviously promoted in record time. But it's a series of events. So I remember before we were really friends, Laura, I think maybe when I'd moved to my second sponsor, I'd messaged you about the incentive, and basically, I think I'd asked you to sort of, obviously the trips are in term time, so the likelihood, even if I am one of me going on one of them, is very unlikely. And then I'd said about, I think, the world tour dates at the time or something. The Scentsy family reunion was, I think, 10, I can't remember. Basically, I wouldn't have been able to go on either. And you said to me, well, that's a bummer, but you got to think about where your business would be if you still went for it. And you sent me the Gemma Webb video.
Yep.
Like, get out your own goddamn way, or something she was called it.
Yeah.
So that was a real moment, because whilst obviously I don't fully know her circumstances and stuff, I could completely relate to sort of what she was trying to say. In obviously my son has a lot of difficulties, maybe different, but they take up a hell of a lot of time, and some nights you just don't know what the night's going to be. So that I watched that. Then I do watch so much training, like loads. Me and Lindsay we both do our makeup to it. Most mornings we watch some sort of Scentsy training whilst we're getting ready for work. But so I take loads from loads of one, but the one where I was really like, oh my god, was recently your sort of goal setting for January. It was the first time, even though in my mind I thought, oh, maybe I'd like to be a director. Maybe I'd like to be a director. It was the first time I've like proper, like, it's like literally written all over my house now, in my kitchen. And it's the first time I've started telling people, like, Harrison's like, so when you're a director, Mclane, like, and I don't know, that was like a real shift. Like, I was like brave enough to like speak it into existence almost. I don't know if you get what I mean. It's always been a goal for me, but I was a bit scared to say it out loud.
Say it out loud. Oh, hello.
Yeah. There he is.
Here he is.
I
might have to send a text from Mark.
Well trained, thank you.
Yeah.
So there was Gemma's, which was quite a while ago. Then that was a real light bulb moment. Then following on from that light bulb moment, when I watched Caroline's one of these, and she was talking about the feeling in her group when she was working towards that, like, becoming a director's group, I was like, ooh, that sounds amazing. And then I went to World Tour, and I was just like, am I still there? Have we frozen?
No, you're here. I'm just listening. Sorry.
And then I went to World Tour, and it was just the feeling in the room. I was just a bit like I was a bit like probably like a stalker. I was just literally tracking like everyone in the room with the groups, like the director groups. And I was like, said to Lindsay, like, this is what I want, but I want it to be like us. Like,
yeah,
I don't want to be a director without like was all going on the journey.
Yeah.
So, and then Lindsay promoted to lead, which was like proper amazing. I loved like our first like team promoting to like the next
yeah. It's amazing. And do you know what? We've never had this. That's really, really like amazing that you said that, because we've never had this conversation. And I literally had that moment in Mexico. So I'm sure you all know now who Wendy Heath Newgrass is, because she's just amazing. She's an American superstar director that is literally just like larger than life. Like, absolutely love Wendy. She's been in our group, I think, and done a training, I think, maybe, or she did. If not, I'm definitely going to ask her. I'm definitely going to interview her for this. Anyway, I remember when I had my first Intensity trip, and I was a director. Lisa was a director, but none of our teams had earned it. So it was like Dan and I. and Lisa and her sister-in-law, because Mike couldn't go. So there was literally the four of us, and like that was it. And Wendy Newgas was there, and I kid you not, it was like in Mexico at the Moon Palace, and I don't know, God, it's going to sound really terrible. Wendy's got like an amazing body, like not in a weird way, but she's like absolutely smoking body. And she was there in this like little bikini with a tan. She lives in like California, and I was pregnant at the time. And I was just sitting around the edge of this pool, and I felt like a big fat frog on like a lily pad, just sitting there in my baby blue swimming costume. I kid you not, Wendy was there with like a whole team, and like it was all buzzing, and they were all like living. And we said, we were like, it's like something out of like an American like spring break, like, but they just had that vibe and that team culture and that. And I just remember, and we said, I was like, wow, I want that one day. And now, and like, and it happened, and it happens over time. And it was lovely because she came over, she was like, oh my God, just so cute. And I was like, I'm so pregnant. But yeah, but it is, you're right. And when you go and you see that, and when you build that community and that team culture, that is what it's about. And it's when people say like, you know, it's not about what you can get, it's about what you can give. And when you start to, it's amazing promoting, but there is no feeling like it when your team is promote. Like it's brilliant, and you do that together. So I think that's wonderful. And literally hit the nail on the head. Being at an in-person event, the feeling is just indescribable, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it was really good.
Anyone that's listening to these, why do they need to go to the Scentsy family reunion?
God, well, you just do, because I didn't know what to expect when we went to World Tour, like the other month. We've not been to anything like that. But it was just, it was so strange. Like, so normally I'd feel a bit nervous going into a room with so many people that you don't know, but like everybody was just like, everyone was just so friendly. I don't know. I can't actually describe why you need to go, but you do need to go, because like you just leave like now I feel like I can actually like see it and envision what I'm trying to like work towards. Like, actually, I was thinking about it the other day, I better promote to superstar next month. I mean, I swear to God, if I'm as close as I was in January, even I will struggle to find a positive spin on why I don't promote a match.
But I am just going to say this, and I'm just going to put this out there, and all the girls on here have heard me say this many times before. It will happen when it's meant to happen.
It will.
Then it will be organic, and then you will maintain it. So honestly, it will happen.
Oh yeah, and I do say that all the time, and I know that's why it took a bit longer, because with how busy life is, I think like I've like it's given me more time to like learn. So when I've got like more people who want support in my team and stuff, I'll be like, oh yeah, I've done that, which will help because I am really busy. But that's why I need to go to World Tour, because from that I'm now like so tunnel vision on where I'm going. The other day I was like thinking, so if I do get my promotion in match, I've like skipped a thing. I was like thinking I was like director for a moment, and I was like, no, you're trying to get superstar first. You just need to rein yourself in a little bit.
You could double promote in a month. It is not unheard of. Tam Richards promoted to director from content. Just saying. Did.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've kind of answered this one anyway. So any standout events or trainings that you have listened to, but obviously you've referenced some of those. So next one, what would be your biggest tip when it comes to networking? So we are a network marketing business. So loads of people do the marketing, but they don't do the networking, the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, behind social media, behind what people can see. So what would be, whether this is in person or, you know, by Facebook, WhatsApp, whatever, what would be your biggest networking tip?
So I've kind of got two. The first one would be, which I sort of keep saying all the time to my girls and stuff, it's like actually network. Like, don't just post. You've got to actually network. You've got to actually speak to people. And I didn't do that for a long time, and that's why I probably just plodded on for a while, because I was sort of like stuck in my own head for a little bit with it. But then the biggest thing to like getting out of my own head, and that has honestly just turned my business around. And actually, when I started doing that was September 21, and that's when my sales have started. Like, I think that was the first time I got in the top 20, and I've never not been there now, because I stopped being embarrassed that I was a Scentsy consultant. So when I used to like, I was a bit embarrassed when I talked to people about it, and I was a bit like, and then they were a bit like, oh, all right then, I might order, I might not. Like, She seems a bit like she's not sure she wants to talk to me about that.
Yeah.
And then I just thought, like, actually, I do love it. Like some people will take the mick, and some people are like, oh God, you're obsessed. And I was like, yeah, I am. That's why I joined. I totally love it.
I have said that words, but that people like as I'm like, yeah, but I am obsessed. It's like the best obsession ever. Like literally,
Yeah.
I am.
It's like some people are totally obsessed with Starbucks. It's just the same thing. And when I'm a bit obsessed with that as well. But when I stopped being like embarrassed about it, it's really like snowballed, because then you're like sharing with passion, aren't you? Really, I suppose. And same as like when somebody before I was going to World Tour tried to do that passive thing where they're a bit like, I don't get it as much now though, because I'm not embarrassed about it. So if you're feeling embarrassed when you talk about something, you're giving people permission to like be a bit back at you.
Yes.
But if you're like, they're not gonna, are they? So somebody was like, well, what are you going to London for? And I was like, I'm going to Scentsy World Tour. And they were like,
I want to see that girl I met on the internet.
yeah. And they were like, you're going to Scentsy World Tour? Like, and would wanted to mock me a little bit. And I was like, yeah, I absolutely can't wait. And then later in the day, and that's just 2 times I've called people out like this, actually, in a nice way. But later in the day, there was like, have a great time. Like, I know you're real excited, but in a nice way later in the day, because they'd obviously thought, actually, there was no need. There's just no need to do that.
I remember you telling me about a guy, somebody, and then you'd been for drinks or something, and you actually called him out on it and he apologised.
Yeah. And they do it because if you don't, when you stop being embarrassed, like, then now actually people who used to be a bit like, I don't know, or sometimes actually I think people were a bit thingy, but actually I don't know that they were. They now ask me how it's going, and other people that you would expect to ask maybe don't, if you get what I mean. So that, I think that's the biggest thing for networking. It's not really answered your question, but it is in a way. Like once I stopped being embarrassed and just like really actually quite proud about what I did, then
oh my God, like it totally has answered the question, because that is a tip that is going to help people to network, because you are 100% right. Like, again, it's like everything in this life, it comes down to mindset. It comes down to you. 9 times out of 10, all the things that we create, you know, the things that we think, we've literally created them in our head. And you have to be 100% proud that you're a Scentsy consultant. 9 times out of 10 people probably aren't even thinking what we are thinking. And the ones that do, it just highlights their own insecurities. And you are absolutely right. And then what starts to happen when you are 100% like proud and passionate, like I, over the years, have had people, and also there will be people, you will be inspiring people that you have absolutely no idea. There will be people watching, like not even necessarily in this industry, but like there'll be people watching you, and as time goes on, you will have like, you will be inspiring people without even realizing it, because actually it's not natural for people to be proud of what they're doing. Like it's human nature to kind of like creep back, and it's rare for people to actually go, do you know what, sod you, I'm going to do this, and I'm really proud of it. So actually, like you say, it just highlights people's own insecurities normally, doesn't it? So
and that's so true actually, because in the summer somebody messaged me thanking me. She doesn't buy Scentsy, but she messaged me thanking me, saying that like my Scentsy group has really helped her. And I was a bit like, what do you mean? But she was like, you won't really understand what I mean, but sort of your lives and stuff have helped me. But she doesn't buy Scentsy, she's not interested, she don't want a sample pack. But
but you never know, like that person might end up becoming a teammate, because 100% people don't always join this business because they want money. They sometimes want community, and this is why I am so passionate. And I'm not, obviously not more than the product, but definitely as much as is that when I'm promoting and sharing what joining our Scentsy community is about, like we're going to work on your mindset, and we're going to like grow the person, like not just grow a business, because that is 100% what it is for me now, and that is what is important. So yeah, that's amazing. Okay, what was well, you've kind of answered this. So when you joined, what was your reason? Like why did you think, oh, do you know what, I'm just going to give this a go?
the reason I just randomly joined on that Sunday was because we'd been looking at unis for Elliot, and we fell into this funny bracket where he won't get the full grant, but we don't earn enough to actually help top him up. And I got a blind panic of, what if I know when my sister went away to uni, there was times when she wanted in a good place and she really wanted to come home, and she didn't have the money, and my family couldn't send her the money. And I thought, I can't have that. So
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting I'd make enough money to pay for him to go to uni, but I wanted to know there was always enough money that was just separate, that I could just book a train at any point if he went anywhere in the country. But anyway, he changed his mind anyway, and he's not moved away anyway, so it was bye. But that was sort of why I joined, and it was, I didn't even anticipate to make much money. It was more that was happening at that time. At the same time, I'd become hooked on Scentsy, and I was like, oh, I don't want people to be like, well, you can't buy that wax bar because you're saving for that. Still wanted my Scentsy, so I was just like, I'm gonna have to join and get it free.
Amazing. Honestly, I'm with you. I was broke when I joined Scentsy, but I always still somehow managed to buy wax bars. So we always find a way. And what is your, I'm guessing over the last couple of years that has evolved, and it's totally okay for people. In fact, I'd be really surprised if people's why didn't evolve over time. But over the last 2 years, what is your why now? Like, what is the reason that you get up every single day and want your Scentsy business?
Oh, it's changed massively. There's loads of reasons. The biggest one would be I am a different person. Like, I've been here nearly 2 years and I am like a totally different person. Like my confidence is like on a different level. But the biggest thing is like I feel comfortable. Like I've not for years I didn't particularly feel comfortable. Like in school, I never felt comfortable, like in my own skin. Just never felt like fully comfortable, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, it's just changed me really. Like my friend, like went to Craig David. Oh, God, loved it. Like relived our youth. Went to Craig David in April 21. So I've just been doing Scentsy a year, and she's been my best friend since my first day at nursery. Like we've been lifelong friends. And we even had our last babies on the same day, but we didn't plan that. But when we went to Craig David, she was like, you are so different since you've joined Scentsy. But it wasn't in like a mean way. She was just like, I've never ever known you be like confident and comfortable in a room like you are now. So that was one of them. And on that point, actually, it's a totally different point. But for anyone that does watch this, like, don't presume when you're thinking about networking, I'm going backwards, but don't presume
it's all right. That's what we do.
Don't presume it's your circle. Like she's my best friend in the world. She does not buy Scentsy ever. She bought a car bar once and she didn't particularly like it, and she's never bought anything in since. And most of my like immediate, they're not my best customers. My two best customers I'd never ever met ever before Scentsy. And the only reason I found them, which is what I say to my team all the time, the only reason I found them was because I promoted to lead, and they then obviously go on the Scentsy website, don't you?
Yeah.
And they randomly ordered when it was a flash sale because I was the nearest consultant to them.
Yeah.
Now they honestly buy all the time.
Yeah.
And I've built like a real relationship with them, and sort of I know the kids. And I dropped an order off the other day to one of them, and she was like, give me a massive hug. And like,
oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, she was, yeah, it's real funny because she's real busy as well. So I'm normally passing it to her son or her husband. And she was like, oh my God, I can't believe I've actually met you. Like this massive hug, bless her. The other reason, I suppose, is it goes back to confidence, but obviously, I'm a young mum. Well, I'm not a young mum now to Harrison, but I am a young mum for the older two. And sort of people always say to me, it's a bit like the passive thing about Scentsy. If you say how old you are, and then people ask how old your kids are, they always used to say to me, you're too young to have those kids.
Oh, I've lost her again. Oh no. We'll give it a sec. Hopefully she'll come. Are you back?
Am I there?
You're back. You're back.
Sorry. Honestly, it's because in Hull you can only have your internet with KC. And it's rubbish.
This is actually like genuine.
Yeah, in Hull, you can only get your internet through a company called KC. They have the monopoly and it's rubbish. It's another problem I have for my Scentsy business. So yeah, my eldest son came into my care.
Oh no.
I've not had Botox. And it's just sort of giving me the confidence to be like, if you want to take from that and judge from me whatever you want to take from that quick maths you've just done in your head, you can do that, but I don't need to justify or share my story with people that I don't want to. But I never felt that confidence. Like, I know that sounds big and far-fetched, but that is why I think I would always stay with Scentsy, because I can't actually imagine not doing it now because of how it's just changed how I feel about myself, really.
Yeah, it's bigger than it. When we say it's so much more than wax and warmers, it's bigger. I'm just you did freeze a little bit there, but what I'm guessing the bit that we missed was that when people would say like, oh, you're not old enough, and you used to feel like you have to make reasons and go like, I've just had Botox or whatever, like. And actually, again, shock, something I can actually relate to that, because I was 24 when I had Ella, and now like she towers above me, and I used to get that a lot because I know I don't look old. And when, especially 16 years ago when I had a baby, like I would get it all the time, the amount of people that were like, oh my god, she's not yours, and I was like, yeah, she is. I was in labor for 23 and a half hours. So but it's actually quite rude. Like, it's actually like you would never say to somebody, oh, you look really old, would you? Like,
it's passive. It's like passive aggressive, isn't it? Almost. But until like the last year or so, when I've had this real change in my confidence, I would allow people to do that to me, and I don't know.
And I think it's that circle of control, isn't it? Like, people like that are never going to change. They're always going to say these things, but it's that thing of like, you can't control the external circumstances, but you can control how you react to it. And it is literally like a superpower. Like, it is. We had some family over at the weekend, and Dan's brother-in-law was talking about it actually, and he said, he was like, I've literally never met anyone that can deal with things like you can. And I was like, Dan went, she hasn't always been like this. She's done a lot of work on herself.
No, I haven't either. Not at all. Like, really, over the years, like I've actually in the past made myself quite ill. I've had MRIs and everything because I thought I might have MS. And it was toxic shock. It was from a series of trauma. So we got married in 2010, and then whilst we was on honeymoon, my dad unfortunately took his own life. And then we just had a series of terrible events. I got pregnant really soon after that. We lost my home 2 weeks before I gave birth. My waters went whilst I was unpacking, and I was like going to the toilet and not telling anybody so that we could still be unpacked before the baby came. I was like, hang on, picture. Stop the toilet.
Oh my
gosh. And then loads of other stuff went on. Obviously, my brother's accident. And I used to, honestly, people used to say to me, you are the unluckiest person I know. And I used to say, I know, I am the unluckiest person I know. Don't spend too much time with me. Like, bad things will happen to you. And when I had that mindset, really bad things kept happening. I'm not saying that bad things don't happen now. But and I made myself ill. I was so physically ill. Like, the entire right side of my body was pins and needles head to foot, hence why they thought I had MS. And that went on for ages, like absolutely ages. But then when they told me that's what it was, and I thought, I've really, really got to work on this, because you can make yourself so physically ill if you don't manage stress. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And that's amazing that obviously Scentsy's had that impact on you. So that is.
Yeah, I was working on the mindset a bit before the Scentsy with the when they did the thing, but
yeah, no, but that's what I mean.
It took it to the next level.
It took it to the next level. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And okay, so what is your proudest moment or moments in the last couple of years?
That one's easy. So it was you did an August end of month, like, do you know sometimes when you do like a team live,
Yeah.
and you'd asked us to sort of nominate some if you wanted to give someone a shout out. And I'd struggled with it all day, deliberating, because all my team had done loads of things. But it obviously went to my lovely Lindsay because she'd been away all summer in a caravan, which she goes like touring. She'd been all over. And she needed to put a month end order in, and she was in the lakes, I think, at a festival, and she couldn't get a blooming signal. So I picked Lindsay anyway, because she stood on top of a shipping container in the middle of a festival to put her order through. So I was like, gotta go to her just for that.
I love that.
But when you did that live, I'm sure you've told a story similar, but basically I was in my room naked, tanning, just with you laid on my phone, ringing away, waiting sort of for you to do Lindsay's shout out. And then 3 of my teammates had sent one in for me, and I think you did one. That was honestly, I'm not much of a crier, but I was like proper crying, ruined my facial tan. No, I'll always remember that moment. It was really proud.
Oh no, and as it should be, like, and it's, you know, that's not a coincidence that obviously all those people nominated you. And I remember you shouting out Lindsay, like, that was absolutely amazing. That is dedication to the cause, right? And that just shows that, you know, Scentsy is a joy. And this is why recognition is so important, because it's really important to want to recognize other people, but also to say, do you know what, I am proud of myself, and that's okay, because you are then displaying what's the word I'm looking for, like, you're basically teaching your teammates to say, do you know what, it's okay that I'm proud of myself. You're I can't think of the word.
Yeah, I've got one teammate who will never ever shout herself out, and I'm like, no, do it, go do it. I just think pride is a really misunderstood emotion. I say this all the time. I once had a parent of a pupil say to me, basically come to me and say, can you stop telling my child you're proud of them? Because we believe pride is a sin. And I was like, what? Like, yeah. So, yeah.
It's crazy. I think, you know, in the world we live in, like, being proud of yourself can be, it can be misconstrued with arrogance, and it's actually not at all. Like, you can totally be proud of yourself and be really, really humble. It doesn't, but yeah, I think it's really important to be proud of yourself and display those behaviors that will then, you know, roll down like a butterfly effect throughout your team. Okay, I know that personal development is huge for you, and I know that you practice gratitude every single day, but is there a particular standout personal development book or audio that you have listened to?
It's just it has to be The Magic. Yeah. Because I feel like it's changed my life twice. So I read it, I must have been about, well, it was still just me and the boys. I was on my own. It was before I met my husband. So I think I read it when I was about 19. And I was not in a very good place at all. And I used it to really change my circumstances massively. And not long after I met my husband, and like, I really felt like I'd sort of attracted that to my life, because I read that book, and I finally found a way where I felt like I could actually change my circumstance.
Yeah.
And then everything happened that really, there was like 4 to 5 years of just really a series of really traumatic fluke events that maybe wouldn't happen to anyone, one of them in a lifetime. They were just like, and I stopped doing it. I just stopped because I got worn down, and I was just like, this is nonsense. Like, bad stuff just keeps happening. But then I reread it again. I don't know, not long after I joined Scentsy, but I'd already started like shifting, listening to podcasts and stuff. But I reread it again, and I just feel like it's this time. I think because I'm older as well. Like, I was like really young, and now I'm like mid-30s. Like, now I'm just like, oh my god, like, I get it on a deeper level. Like, and if I know some people just don't understand what it is when I do my gratitude journal. But honest to God, if that isn't the first thing I do every day, my day is off. Like, I don't feel right. Like, I don't know. Like, I set my alarm so early so that I can make sure it's done. Yeah, because I just feel weird if I don't.
Like 100%. Even Dan will say now, like, if I he notices a difference. He's like, he always goes, oh, you've not done your things this morning, have you? I'm like, no, just, and if I do them later, it feels weird, but it's literally like 10 minutes in the morning. Emma's put me to. It is so powerful, whether I'm at the caravan, when I was in Ibiza, like wherever I am. When I went to retreat, I took it and I went down and made a coffee in the morning. Like I literally, it's about building habits, isn't it? And I can't explain why, because I don't know the science behind it, but it definitely does. Well, I kind of can, I guess. It's like it shifts something in your brain. If you're starting your day thinking about all the things that you're grateful for, you almost can't have a bad morning, can you? Like it just puts everything into perspective.
And human beings we are naturally negative. You do need to like train your brain. So like if you start your day like actually just sitting down in silence for 10 minutes and thinking about like then you go off to work. And I do that crazy early. I set my alarm for like 5:15 to do that because I leave the house at 7:10. So I do that, and then I normally do some Scentsy bits and obviously all the monk stuff you need to do before you leave.
Yeah.
But if for whatever reason I've not done it, which hasn't happened for a long time now because it just makes me feel off if I do it. If I will still do it later in the day, but it's not the same.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Honestly, without a shadow of a doubt, if somebody said to me, like, what is your favourite time of day? Without, like, doesn't mean that I don't love spending time with my family, doesn't mean that I don't love spending time with my friends, but without a shadow of a doubt, my favourite time is that time in the morning when it's just me and it's silent, I've got coffee and I've got my book and honestly, I just love it. So yeah, I get it. I get it completely. I get it completely. Okay, amazing. What aside from, again, we've kind of covered this and I love that we kind of go like this and we like look back, but you could elaborate a little bit more, I guess. What aside from income has Scentsy brought into your life?
Well, I've obviously touched on a lot of them, like confidence and stuff, but the big thing it's brought for me. So um somebody I work with who he's not really a customer, he's never going to be a customer, but he's a good friend and I really do value his opinion. So when I first joined Scentsy, and I thought it'd be somebody to take this out of, but he was like, I'm so glad you've done that because obviously I won't go into details because that's my son's privacy, but
yeah,
alongside my son's learning needs and his autism, he's got a very complex mental health diagnosis. And at times it can be really, really relentless. We normally go into like a 6-week cycle where it's just well, I just can't describe it, but it's honestly like just relentless. And this person at work had said that'll be the best thing for you because you need something else when you get home other than dealing with that situation. Because it's just too draining. I was becoming unwell as well, like alongside him we were like both becoming unwell together. And that's the biggest thing. So when we went into one of those really severe cycles in November again, and we had to have like crisis psychiatry teams and things out. But honestly, I was like, well, and it's not selfish. That's what I've learned. It's not selfish because I was like, well, actually, I'm going for half an hour to slice wax, but that wasn't in me before. So now that is sort of my time. I enjoy that. But I almost needed Scentsy to be the excuse that I'm going to do that for me because I felt like I could say that needs to, I know that sounds weird.
But no, it doesn't. It doesn't.
It's like an escape. Like that's another massive thing it's done for me, I suppose. It's like an escape. Because otherwise I do that even that situation I can't control or change. Very, very little. There's not much that I can control or change about that. But I read the Chimp Paradox book actually because a friend at work recommended that I read that to help me support my son. Obviously, he wouldn't be able to read that, but I could read it to then try and support him. And it's sort of like that made me realize actually, and it's pouring to me more. That's not selfish because what would be selfish was if I had a mental break as well. Yeah. Like then we really would be buggered. And actually, Scentsy buys into that because it makes me take time and do other stuff.
100%. Like, I follow a guy called, I think I've talked about him on another one, Xavier the life coach. I've never worked with him, used his services. I just ended up following him, and his like tagline is "me first, then you," and he literally says that goes above everybody else in your life, your children, your husband, your partner, your family, your friends. He said, because you have to look after you first, because if you fall apart, everything else in your life falls apart. And I think I came across him in throughout lockdown, and I was like, that is so true. And not that I, like you say, perhaps, you know, over the years when your kids are small and stuff, you feel guilty for taking time for yourself, but actually looking after yourself, looking after your mental health, working on something for you, exercising, drinking water, doing all the things, making sure that you are performing at like your top capacity is actually the best thing you can do for your family. It's the biggest way of showing them that you love them, because like you just said, if you fall apart, then everything else falls apart around you. So I love that Scentsy was obviously your outlet to do that.
Yeah, and then now I do other stuff as well. No, mate, let's have me. No, but it's just no, I think that's a big thing. It's for loads of things. God, I could go on forever.
Yeah, loads of things. Okay. Have you got a funny or inspiring story? So, like, have you been at a party? Oh yeah, and you do parties as well. We should just throw that in your crazy busy life. You find the time to do Scentsy partying.
Yeah, I've got 3 next month. I did one the other day, and I've got 3 in March.
Amazing. So, while you've been at a party or on a live, or I don't know, have you got a funny story to share?
There's a million funny life stories in this house.
Maybe the one.
That's why I've had to come in my bedroom, because my house is so loud all the time. My husband is the worst for it. Like, I swear to God, he definitely is neurodiverse, because he's just, Lindsay will vouch, you'll never ever, my husband was her son's boss for a while, you'll never ever meet another person quite like my husband. It's so unique. And he raps and makes stupid songs all the time. And I was live once, and he come down whilst I was live singing a rap that went something stupid. I can't remember what it went, but it basically, it was words to effect, a song about the fact he'd just shaved his balls. And he was making a rap about it. I was just like, are you actually serious?
That's brilliant.
It's just mental. Like, I was live earlier talking about the Monday deals, and he was like doing all this stupid stuff, and I just have to go, sorry guys, that's Christian, whilst I'm going live. And then he's like, oh my God, I actually forget you're not just like doing a voice note.
Brilliant.
He's definitely got some sort of attention issue, bless him.
But, you know, it's real life, and that's what, you know, that's showing your network and showing your customers that that is your real life. And also, you did do a party this weekend, and you had a bit of a challenging audience.
I did. I did a party this weekend, and I was a bit like, God, I'm getting nothing back from these people. Do you know when you're like sort of waiting for the rest of the guests to arrive, and you're trying to do a chit chat, and they weren't really answering my questions much, and a couple were, and but then in conversation it came out that a lot of them were really hard of hearing, so they couldn't actually hear me. And then I was a bit like, oh, what am I going to do? Because I had like the party game that Laura, I used that one that you do.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, they can't play the party game, so they're not going to hear me. And luckily, earlier in the morning, I couldn't find my laminate for that party game. So a girl me and Lindsay sat with at World Tour, I think she's in Lisa Alwood's like downline, and 2 girls we met there, she told me about this left and right game she played. So I'd messaged her, and she sent me that. So I thought, I'll just read that out off my phone, because it was like, you passed the wax bar when you said left or right. So I could at least point when they had to pass it. Then my husband was like, how did you pull that off? Because normally when we're in the car, I'm like, go right. And it's like the wrong way. I'm not very good. Right. So anyway, I just had to wing it. And I thought they were really, I just didn't know how it was going to go. Do you know when you sort of like leave a party and you're just not sure? But I got home and I started adding it up, and I was like, oh, that was still very well worth my night.
Pounds to be exact. So ish. So yeah, amazing. Right, okay. I will wrap this up. So what is the best piece of advice you would give somebody that was starting their Scentsy business today? If you had to give one top tip.
it's got to be consistent. We all say it, but it's just like you've literally got to be consistent. And I know it's not all about posts, but I've never missed a post. I remember, so my friend Rachel, who sponsored me, who will rejoin under me one day, I tell her this all the time, because most of the things I'm doing are what she told me, like in my first 3 weeks, like, because she was so good at it, it just wasn't the time for her. But I'm always like, well, you could come back to Scentsy, like, let's have you back, let's be TVs again. So, but she said to me, like, her non-negotiable was 3 posts a day. And I know it's not just about posts, but that's always stuck with me. So that's like what my scheduling does. But so that it doesn't become boring, like I've got that in my head, but one of them will be like an alarm that's going to go off on my phone to go live. Or one of them will be like just like a note in my diary, like, I don't know, take a photo of football. Do you know, like, because man has to be like that. Man has to be planned. I know a lot of people's aren't planned, but mine do have to be planned because of how busy I am, otherwise they won't happen. But I make sure, like, so one, be consistent with that and consistent with following up with your customers. I hear of loads of people saying that they had like a Scentsy consultant that didn't deliver their order or took ages or didn't reply to the messages. So I suppose it's the consistency with everything like that, isn't it? And scheduling and just know that actually, like, you can teach it. That was another standout training when Laura Barnes shared her story, that you absolutely can teach yourself confidence. Because actually, when was it a simple steps to success? Sorry, I will let you stop. It was a simple steps to success training when Laura did that. And I think we had a flash sale or something the same day. It was a bit like tonight. And I remember watching her talking on her stories, and I actually thought, God, I could never do that. Like, she's so confident. She's so beautiful. Like, God, that must be so easy for her. And it just shows, like, you never know. And that was one of my biggest takeaways from World Tour, actually, like Lisa sharing, like, the wobble in her voice at first. And so confidence is a learned skill. So
it is 100%. And that is literally probably the thing we're here above anything, is that, well, I can't do that because I'm not confident. Well, confidence, you can learn to be confident, like you can learn to drive a car, like you can learn anything in the world. If you want to be confident, you need to, it's not going to happen overnight, it's going to happen over time, and that comes from being consistent, my love. So thank you so much. This has been absolutely amazing. Honestly, I'm super excited to get this out and share it. I think, like we said, because it was the Monday deals, obviously numbers haven't been as, but do you know what, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all, because I am going to share this, and it's so important that you are a star consultant now, but I'm sure when I come and speak to you again, you're going to be a director, right?
That's the plan.
That is going to happen. But no, honestly, thank you so much. It's been absolutely amazing. Like, I really, really appreciate it. You being honest and vulnerable and open, and I think you literally proved that, you know, there is literally no excuses. If you want to be successful in this business, you will make it happen. You make time for the things that are important in your life. Have you frozen again? Oh no! I think I lost it. No, you're back. Right. Thank you, my love. Yeah, thank you. This has been amazing.
Okay, thank you.
Right, see you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.